Good evening. Welcome to the Malden Board of Appeal. Today is May 17th, 2023. The Malden Board of Appeal will hold a public hearing Wednesday, May 17th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. at Malden City Hall, 215 Pleasant Street, Room 106, Herbert L. Jackson Council Chambers, Malden, Mass. On the following petitions. This meeting may be recorded by Urban Media Arts, formerly known as Malden Access Television. First, we will do a roll call. We'll turn on the mic.
Kramer?
Here.
Froyo?
Here.
Sherwin?
Here.
King?
Here.
Bilgan?
Here.
Chu?
Here.
Kudavadian?
Yes.
Thank you. All present.
Um,
Approval of minutes?
Yep, minutes. Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting? Would anybody like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Second by Sherwin.
Second by Sherwin.
Okay, on motion by King, second by Sherwin, to approve the minutes from April 19th, 2023. Froyo?
Yes.
Thank you. Sherwin?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Bilgan?
Yes.
Kramer?
I wasn't here.
You weren't here, no, so we did have,
It was Armin.
Armin.
Kudavadian.
Yes.
Thank you. So approved.
All right. The first one tonight, petition 23-003 by DiPrete Engineering, acting as agent for the Parikh Network to submit application for the potential development of property seeking variances under the code of the City of Malden as amended, Title 12, Section 12.12.06D, fast food service, off-street parking, and the required setback of lot in Title 12, Section 12.20.010, Table of Off-Street Parking and Loading Regulations, restaurant, fast food, required number of parking spaces as per plans, CMID-050466-2022 at property known as and numbered 1100 Main Street, Malden, Mass., and also known by City Assessor's Parcel ID 044855-507. Come on. Just please sign in and state your name. And
good evening, members of the board. My name is Liam Floyd. I represent the petitioner of the Parikh Network. And today we are, because we became aware of a few issues between the time we scheduled this and the time and today. So we're requesting to table this matter for 1 month till the next month's meeting. We have a few things we want to make sure we can address anybody's objections in the meantime, and hopefully meet with some folks who have those objections.
okay, so you're looking for a motion for us to table this for 1 month. Would anybody like to make a motion on
I would
that?
like to speak. Can I address that?
Sure.
Hi everyone, my name is Ryan O'Malley. I'm a Ward City Councilor. We have residents who are here to testify in opposition to this project. I ask that you do not table this. Thank you.
Okay, so the people that are here to speak, we can allow them to speak. That doesn't mean that we won't table it.
Thank you.
From the public, anybody opposed to this project can speak now? Wait, we want a motion to do that? There's nothing presented, they just asked to table it. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve tabling this for 1 month as requested by the petitioner?
I actually have a question for the petitioner. Can you give us a little more explanation about why you feel that you want us to table this?
Yes, well, we became aware that we have prepared plans. I suppose you've all seen them, and our petition. There have been some specific environmental issues that have been raised through another petition by some people who are objecting. And we have our engineers who are working on that, and they're drafting up some better plans and some more explanatory materials to explain how we, through this project, are going to be addressing the environmental issues that have been raised.
How is that gonna affect our decision on the variances, though? Because we're here, I believe, on a setback and on a parking requirement. So is a change in the plans, is that gonna change the need for those variances?
No, I just that we wanted to make sure that if the board was, you know, in case the board was swayed by the issues that are being raised in this petition that I just only got last week, have to do with other issues that sort of attack the project as a whole. They don't seem to bear on the actual requested variances, but we wanted to make sure that everybody, that we could address everybody's concerns in case anybody on the board was, had those concerns.
Yeah, because that doesn't have,
Speaking on the microphone. Sorry.
I mean, that environmental issues aren't particularly.
We're not here for environmental issues, we're here for parking issues. Is it
Yeah.
anything that you're doing relating to the parking issues, or the variance that you're here for?
No, and when I say environmental issues, they raised some other issues related to pedestrian safety and things of that nature.
Entrances, exits?
Yeah, and so we wanted to make sure that we can, fully address those. We have some better plans that I think would maybe better show what the finished product will look like and how that would work.
So as of right now, you're saying your final plans are not complete and not ready for this meeting?
Well, the plans are ready. We want to do some more
Revision.
in-depth plans that would show how it's going to look as a finished product, that I think everybody could get a better sense of what we're doing.
So I'll make a motion. I would motion to deny the request to table without prejudice. I'd like to hear the testimony first, and then you can renew it at the end, at the later, if we feel that. You can renew it again, and we can consider it after we hear it from everyone, and then if we feel that there's a good reason for tabling it, I suppose we can send it to next month's meeting. So I would deny it for now, and then you can renew it at the end of the presentation.
So the anything that we hear in terms of opposition or or people that are for this project, anything that they say tonight will be based on plans that you don't have complete tonight. So I'm not sure where the benefit is of that, to listen to people talk about the plans that they have tonight when it's not what their plans are going to be.
I think even to give them the opportunity to revise the plans, I think I'd want to hear a little bit before we, make everyone come back for another meeting.
I mean, a lot of times we'll have a hearing, and then at the end, they'll request an extension. And then we can decide whether or not we think there's enough.
And I think actually with a lot of cities, it's very common to do these over multiple meetings. We tend to do them in one night, but it's not unusual to stretch them out for another night, so.
I mean, with the people here, I'd just as soon let them speak. We can get the hearing basically over. If they want to request towards the end that we give them an extension to revise plans to cover those things, then we've already heard the arguments.
Okay. Would anybody be
So I would
against
second
tabling this for several minutes to take the next petition, which I feel will move much faster before we take this petition where it may be prolonged?
But why don't we, we could just do this. You want to do it just for times?
Yep. I have a feeling that based on this, 23-003 is going to take some time, so I feel that we should get 23-004 out of the way.
So we're just reordering?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would withdraw my motion. I'll make a motion to do the second petition first and come back to this one.
I just need a motion.
What's that?
I just need a motion to.
Oh, I thought I was.
Oh, okay, so I
sorry.
need a second.
Second.
All right.
So you call the, I'll wait.
So
till
we will, yes, we will just take the other one first. So petition 23-00,
Well,
I'm
I
sorry,
think
we need a roll call.
We need a vote on that, yeah. I'm sorry.
All right, motion by Kramer, second by King to postpone hearing the first petition number 23003, and we'll go on to petition 23-004, and then back to petition 003.
Except it was by Sherwin, not Kramer.
Sherwin, second by King.
Yep.
Florio?
Yes.
Sherwin?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Logan?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Nope, I'm just making sure we're ready to go. Okay, so petition 23-004 by Essence and Nicolas Souffrant, seeking a variance under Code of the City of Malden as amended, Title 12, Section 12.16.010, Table of Intensity Regulations, dwelling, two-family, specifically rear yard setback, permitted construction of an addition to expand kitchen/dining area and deck as per plans RES-052879-2023 at the property known as and number 24-26 Maynard Street, Malden, Mass., and also known by City Assessors Parcel ID 165509913. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Attorney Patrick McDonald with offices at 479 Eastern Avenue here in Malden, and I represent the petitioners in this matter, Mr. and Mrs. Nicolas and Essence Souffrant, record owners of the property of known in numbers 2426 Maynard Street here in Malden. The subject property is a pre-existing, non-conforming, grandfathered two-family residential dwelling here in the city. The Souffrants occupy one of the units in the two-family, that being the one numbered 24. The proposal before the board and the request for a variance from the board is related to their desire to engage in, it was characterized at filing as an expansion of the kitchen, but I want to apologize because I think that's to an extent at least a misnomer. They're not actually expanding their kitchen. It's the interior layout of the property will, and the interior structure of their property will remain the same. They are sort of reorganizing their kitchen and moving an egress, or hopefully moving the egress from the second floor of their home about 20 feet one way closer to the northernmost side of the property, and to build a second floor deck, that which I guess would be an expansion because it's additional material added to the exterior of the home. But I want the board to understand that again, the lines of the home, so to speak, are not changing. They're looking to restructure the configuration of their interior kitchen. This will create for them additional usable space, counter space, cabinet space, so on and so forth. And the exterior is really the issue here. It's the proposed new deck to the second floor. They have a somewhat unconventional arrangement in the unit in their home, where what one might consider to be the main floor of the home is actually the second floor, where their kitchen and dining room and living room exist, and a couple of bedrooms. And their first floor is what would more conventionally be the second floor of a two-story home. That consists of bedrooms and bathrooms. So when you walk in on the ground level of their home from the front, you're actually walking into a bedroom area, the sleeping quarters area of the home, and you go upstairs to the second floor to gain access to the main living space within the home. As I said, the proposal is to add a second floor deck to increase egress and space. When these petitioners bought the home a number of years ago, they were a married couple, but childless at the time. In the interim, they have had 2 children. They're an expanding and growing family. I asked my client, any more on the way? Is it a definite no, a definite yes, or who knows? And at the moment, it's a who knows, but there's certainly the possibility of further growth within their family unit. The new deck, if approved by the board, will not increase the nonconformity of setbacks for the property. The plan is to line the new deck or keep it in line with the existing staircase, the extension, the full extension of the existing staircases at the rear of the property. So a line drawn along the entire rear of the property will generate no greater setback violation into the existing setback. It will remain the same. I think it's 12.8 feet, if I'm reading the plan right. That's the current setback distance from the rear property line based on staircases, and the second floor deck will meet that line. So again, no increase or further increase into the existing setback.
Is there a deck there now?
There's a smaller deck located further to the south, and that deck will be taken down, and the replacement deck will be where that smaller deck was, but will also expand the entire length of the rear of the property all the way to the northern property line, as you see on the plan. And the means of ingress and egress to the deck, right now, you basically have to walk through the center of the kitchen to exit the second floor out of the home. And you'll still need to do that to some extent, but with the egress now being moved further north to the northeastern corner of the property, the flow in and out of the second floor of the home will be improved. The door won't be opening right in the middle of the kitchen. It will be opening at the farthest extent that the kitchen lays out. And they will, admittedly, have a much larger deck with which to accommodate their growing family at this point in time. I'd suggest to the board that the property in the petition meets the criteria for a variance as promulgated by Chapter 40. There is something unique about their property. If you look at the site plan submitted with the petition, you see that they don't have what is a conventional lot in that area of the city, meaning essentially a square or a rectangle. Theirs has a jog on the northwestern corner. You can see that they would have had a fully rectangular lot, but they lose a slice off the northwestern corner because that portion of the property, or what otherwise would be their property, is owned by the city by virtue of a drain taking done at some point in the past. So they have an irregularly shaped lot. I would suggest that the hardship here is evident. As I said, when they first purchased the property, they were a married but childless couple. Now they are a married couple with 2 children, and possibly more in the future. And this allows them to better utilize and better enjoy and better make use of their property by changing the exterior deck situation, one that works better with the property, and is an improvement over the existing deck. It allows better access in and out of the house. And without that, they have a troublesome situation where, as their family grows and their means of egress from that, what is the main floor, even though it's the second floor of the structure, it's the main floor of the living unit, requires ingress and egress right in the middle of their kitchen. I further suggest that they meet the criteria related to what they're proposing not being a substantial derogation of the zoning code and in the interest of the public good. As I said, what they are proposing, and I apologize if the characterization of expansion of the kitchen was misinterpreted. They're not changing the interior of the property. They're not changing the main structure or its setback or lines in any way. And to the extent they're adding a second deck, they've made it so that it does not exacerbate or enlarge their trespass, so to speak, into the setback area. It remains the same at 12.8 feet for rear abutters, and it remains the same for abutters to the north, and that measurement is about 12.2 feet, if I'm reading the plan correctly. So, as I said, what they're proposing does not spit in the face, so to speak, of the zoning ordinance here. They made an effort to keep any additional nonconformity to a minimum and consistent with existing nonconformities, so as not to exacerbate them anymore. The parties are here, Mr. and Mrs. Souffrant, available to address any questions or concerns. I suspect there may be some that are more easily and better answered by them as opposed to me, with respect to the specifics of their family and their home and their project. And we welcome any questions from the board at this time, and we ask that the board act favorably upon the petition.
I have one question. So the deck on the second floor, it's going to be the same size as where the first floor stairs hit the ground?
That's
So
true,
it's going to be a
right.
lot larger than the first floor deck?
The extension of the deck toward the rear property line will align with the staircase from which they ultimately exit the property onto the backyard.
But
So
not
that
the
line-
deck on the
that's
first floor?
right.
You know how big the deck is right now, the current one?
Do you have an estimate of the size of the existing second floor deck? Why don't you? Come on. It's okay. Give me your name and address.
Hi,
We-
my name's Essence
Oh,
Souffrant.
sorry, that's what I was going to say. Just say your name and address.
Yes, my name's Essence Souffrant, property owner of 24-26 Maynard Street in Malden.
Okay.
How
So
big do you estimate so this is the proposed deck, but how big do you estimate the existing deck to be? That's not depicted on.
I mean, could you put 3 chairs out there and sit down, 4 chairs? Just, I don't need, feet and inches, just rough idea. How many people now do you have out there and sit down and relax?
well, it can fit maybe we don't really go out there that much because of the current space.
Yeah.
It's not as big as we would want it to be. So today we have a grill, and I mean, ideally we would want a round table, maybe like a 64-inch size round table with chairs around it.
Okay.
That's about how big it is. In terms of number of chairs, my husband, do you have an idea of, I guess, how many chairs? If I'm like, maybe like 6 to 7 chairs could fit out there right now. I mean, say your name.
Hi, Nicolas Souffrant. So,
Where do you live?
24/26 Maynard Street in Malden, Mass.
So how wide?
So I would say I say comfortably it could fit about maybe 4 people right now, 4 to 6 people on the deck. Not much. And currently there's a grill there, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing else on the deck. We rarely use the deck because of safety issues as well. It is deteriorating at the moment, so that's the reason now we're trying to actually look into have it repaired and making sure that it's more sustainable for the family.
So, and I went by your house, but I was too early. I didn't want to scare anybody by wandering through your backyard, so I didn't see the deck itself. Is it on, what level is it? Is it
It's
up?
on the second floor.
So-
Yeah, it's an elevated deck.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay.
So the distance between the deck that they're proposing is 12.8 feet from the rear line.
So it's no more non-conforming. They're basically using the non-conforming lines and working within that.
Yes. Except for the stairs.
Slightly bigger deck, yeah. But they're not being,
And my concern is just that, it's raised above, people behind. And right now, it's, because of its size, it's not used much. I'm just wondering how it would do when you have big enough for a party changes I think the feeling of the neighborhood.
This is one of the most confusing plans I think I've ever looked at, because it makes it seem like the deck is the same size, the old one's the same size as the new one, but you're saying it's larger, right? The new deck is.
It is larger. This is not an existing, this is not an existing conditions plan. It is the site plan with the proposed new deck included.
This is the,
Because it says existing deck to be demolished, it's hard to tell
So this is
what's
just
being
current
demolished and what's
deck.
being put
If,
in.
if you look at page 2, if the board members take a look at the second page of the package that was submitted, but the sheet labeled A01, you can see the existing deck and the means of egress down from it, as it's an elevated second floor deck. That's actually located on the northernmost side of the property. The deck is on the southern side of the property, with the staircase down on the northern. This will flip that, and it will bring the deck proper, so to speak, to the northern end of the property. It will expand it. It clearly is a somewhat larger proposal. And then it brings the staircase egress over to the southern side of the property and lines it up with the existing egress from the first floor of the property at that location too. So now, anybody exiting the second floor and the first floor is utilizing staircases that are basically in the same place. And the second floor deck is shifted away from the staircases up and down, but admittedly, yes, expanded somewhat in the process. It would be a larger deck if approved by the board. But the lines remain the same, so to speak.
Is there a deck on the second floor right now?
yes. There's
So
a.
that's
the-
this, that's on
it's
page 2.
Yeah, it's the rear deck that's on, page 2.
And that's 10 feet from the house, which is what you're proposing the new deck to be?
Like the rear part of it?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
10 from the
the rear-
house to the outside line is
Yes.
10 feet.
So
And the new
the-
deck will be 10 feet too, except the deck will be larger and the stairs will be in a different
Yes,
spot.
correct, yes, yes.
But the rear setback is the same as it currently
They're not
consists. Yeah.
increasing their currently,
Right,
they're not increasing their encroachment at this, with this.
right. I'm curious if you had conversations with your neighbors or if any of them are here today. I think that's,
I was gonna bring that up. The Souffrants had reached out to several of the neighbors, those they could, who answered the door, so to speak, or took the time to speak with them. None of whom expressed any opposition, but I don't suggest that they met with everybody who qualifies as a statutory abutter, just those that were close by and that they could speak to. They also reached out to Ward Councilor Sika. This was back in December, I think. At the time, as the holidays were approaching, Ward Councilor Sika indicated to Mrs. Souffrant that she wanted to come down to the house and take a look, and had actually made an appointment to do so after the holidays, sometime in earlier mid-January. And then Councilor Seeker reached out to Mrs. Souffrant and said, I can't make that date, something has come up. And didn't come on that date, and indicated to her that she would reach out to her again to try to reschedule, but we never got any further communication from Councilor Seeker. I don't know if anything has been submitted to the board by her related to this matter, but my point is, outreach was made to both neighbors and the ward councilor. A meeting was scheduled that got canceled. Ward councilors are busy people, and she couldn't make that meeting, but just never got around to coming to rescheduling a meeting at the property. So we're not aware of any issues with respect to the ward councilor or neighbors at this point.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board on this? Any discussion? Any motions?
I want to hear from the public first, just to make sure, but
Is there anybody from the, thank you for your presentation. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on this? That is for the project? Not seeing anyone. Is there anybody in opposition? I don't see anybody. Okay. Is there anything else the board would like to discuss before a motion's made?
My only issue is, with it, is, you know, is the fact that the way the house is configured, and that this deck is now gonna be, you know, basically on the second floor, and they specifically said that they don't use it very much because it's small and it needs work, and it's, so that it hasn't been of any real consequence to the neighborhood, but that, you know, if we start putting on a 12 by 27-foot deck, it's going to mean that there's probably going to be more use to it, and now you have people that are, I know, I'm not talking into the microphone. Yeah.
Yes, talking to your mic.
Yep, I will. I'm always getting talked to by people out there. But that's my biggest concern is it's going to affect the neighborhood because of how high it's going to be over it, and the size of it is going to get you move, you know, have them move it more, use it more.
Yeah, I would say just as of right, they could rebuild what they have right now.
Yes.
So it's a slightly larger version, but it's on the second floor.
But again, you said it's about room for a deck, for a grill, and, you know, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
There's a difference between that and having a close to 30-foot long deck with 6 people, 10 people on it.
Yeah.
I mean, which would be able to do it, and that's what this would allow.
I think we've approved non-conforming expansions that are within the existing setbacks before, not brought
But
up the
this-
concern of,
But this, my concern is not that we're going into the setback.
yeah, I know.
It's the height over the existing, or the surrounding properties.
Yeah. It's very atypical to have a kitchen on the second floor.
Yes.
I have a question, maybe it would address John's concern. Is there any sort of natural buffer between your yard and the neighbor's yard, like trees or anything like that, or is it just a fence?
There's trees. So our backyard is basically covered in trees, so it kind of creates almost like a gate of some sort because it's all trees throughout the entirety of the backyard.
Yeah, it seems pretty typical of your neighborhood. I saw on the map that there's a nice line of trees between the properties. So can you see that house behind you? Can they see you on the deck?
It's not clearly, like, I mean, today if somebody's out, we can't look over into somebody's yard, you know, because there are, you know, really large trees that's in our backyard and in our neighbor's backyard.
Yeah.
Any other questions? So your existing deck right now is 10 by 13 and a half. And the deck you're proposing is 10 by 27 and a quarter.
Is that what this looks like?
That's too small for me to read.
I think the way they took the measurements, it's like comparing this 23 feet comparing to the 13.6. Because they both have like a little, landing that extends and wraps into the stair, but I wouldn't count that as any different. We have it in both conditions. So essentially 10 foot bigger, 10 foot by 10 foot.
How did you come up with that 27 and a quarter? Is it just to square it off with each end of the house?
That was frankly, Mr. Chairman, my suggestion when my clients approached me. I thought that their application would be more palatable to the board if they could say that they were not increasing the encroachment into the setback area with this proposal, but rather were keeping, again, the existing line, because although the deck wasn't proposed to be any further originally, the stairway egress was going to be longer and extend into that shortened setback area, and I suggested that they should speak with their architect to make the steps shorter so that you keep the straight line on the rear of the property, and that's what ended up being the proposal for the board.
This is your second egress for the unit, too?
You have how many ways in and out of your apartment in the two-family? You got a front door, I imagine?
Yeah, so we have a front door, we have a rear door in the lower area, and then this is the exit on the second floor.
So it's actually the third means of ingress and egress, one being at the front and two being on each floor at the rear of the property. But that's consistent with the existing conditions as well.
Okay.
Adam, do you have any comment on the non-conforming setback?
Well-
And expanding the size of the existing deck?
I'm waiting for Nelson to straighten me out on this, but until he does, it's my understanding that we have a little bit of leeway for, that's my reading, is for a single family, if it's not increasing the non-conforming, we have a little bit more leeway than a traditional variance. So unless
Yeah.
Nelson shows me otherwise, that's kind of how I've been approaching it, that if they're not increasing, if they're not going further into it, and it's not such a massive that it's gonna interfere with the neighborhood,
Yeah,
I think that there's, that we have a little bit more leeway than a variance.
yeah, I think that's consistent with the way we've been approaching these deck rebuilds. Well, I'm ready to make a motion unless there's any other comments.
Any other questions? Motion away.
I would make a motion that we approve this petition based on it not being any more non-conforming than the existing setbacks and no objections from abutters or neighbors.
I'll second it.
Motion by Bilgan, second by Sherwin, to approve petition 23004, due to it doesn't encroach on any extension of non-conforming uses. Ready? Foil?
Yes.
Sherwin?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Bilgan?
Yes.
Kramer?
No.
All right. A vote of 4 yea, 1 no. Petition 23-004 has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much.
Madam Clerk, do you need the, or did you?
Yes, thank you. He's back.
Allergies?
What's that?
Allergies?
Yeah. I've had a horrible allergy. It almost knocked me out for a week.
Yes.
You cough drop?
Yeah,
Motion
thank you.
for a cough drop?
I know, right?
We don't just give out variances.
Okay, so we're moving back now to petition 23-003 by DiPrete Engineering, acting as agent for the Parikh Network to submit application for the potential development of properties seeking variances under Code of the City of Malden as amended Title 12, Section 12.12.06D, fast food service, off-street parking in the required setback of lot in the Title 12, Section 12.20.010, Table of Off-Street, parking and loading regulations, restaurant, fast food, required number of parking spaces as per Plans CMID-050466-2022 at the property known as and numbered 1100 Main Street, Malden, Mass., and also known by City Assessor's Parcel ID 044-855-5077. So we are opening this back up, and I think that we heard earlier already, so should we just go right to any public comment? Or do we want to hear from the petitioner again prior to going to public comment?
He's not ready to give a presentation.
Right, okay, so we'll just go right to public.
Is that the case?
Correct. He's not ready, they're not ready to present at this time. They'd prefer to table it. But we still can listen to opposition or folks that are in favor of the project.
We can deny the request to table and proceed.
We could also do that, so should we make a motion to,
And then at the end, we could also request, they can request additional time.
if we make a motion to
But it
approve,
doesn't- these people would still have to come back because they wouldn't hear the plans
right,
until they give us plans.
they don't know what the plans necessarily are yet
What the
because they're
issues
not
are.
complete, so we can make a motion to approve the tabling
Or deny it.
or denying the tabling.
If I may speak, it's on.
No, it's on, I'm sorry, I always want to call you Ryan, but good evening, Councilor O'Malley.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Kramer. So as Mr. Kramer has indicated, there has been a notice posted publicly. The plans have been available publicly. The neighborhood has been flyed with notices. They have all received the notices. They have attended. I have a petition with over 126 signatures here that I would like to deliver to you. The petitioner, I believe, does have a plan. They have folders here. They did say they were prepared, but they would like to table for a month. That is a strategy that is used to disenfranchise residents who want to testify. They will not get another notice. The official policy is you only get notice for the first appearance. They're not going to get another notice. I do believe the best interest of the legitimacy of this body and the City of Malden is to have this presentation. If y'all want to table at the end of that to let them amend their project, that is your right. But I do think it is in the best interest of everything here to let them present the project that has been publicized, let the public testify in for or against, and then from there you can make your decision. That would be my respectful request. Thank you.
I have a question for the petitioner. Is the plan going to change?
No, the essential plan is not going to change the footprint and so forth, and the requests are not going to change. We were just hoping to provide some more information that would address some of the concerns of the citizens.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we're here to determine whether the building looks right. It's more about these two variances, so I'd rather you present tonight and we can make a decision later, but I don't want you to miss out on a chance to present before people oppose or approve.
There's a chance that we could hear your proposal and we can hear the feedback from whether positive or negative from the folks that are sitting here tonight. Based on their feedback, we could potentially still table it.
Okay.
But understand that if we don't table it, we are making a decision tonight, so, you you may want to give us a full presentation of what otherwise you would say. I mean, this is your chance right now.
Sure.
To tell us about the project.
Sure, that's fine. So,
I think we should address their request to table.
So, hold on a second. So I think that there was a motion to table it. I would motion to deny that right now, and they can renew that at the end of their presentation after everyone's spoken.
And not second. So, right, hold on.
Motion to deny the tabling by Sherwin, second by King. Cleo?
Yes.
Sherwin?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Duncan?
Yes.
Kramer?
No.
So, motion to deny to table has been approved, so you're gonna have to present, sir.
sure. So,
Thank you.
the plan is, you all have the plan. I think one of the most significant things to look at is the current property. So I'm not sure if this picture, I'm assuming you're all familiar with the site. And it's currently used as semi-used as a gas station, or not a gas station, but a service station. And it's not really being currently used right now. The site is pretty much 100% covered with impermeable surface. It is completely covered by asphalt. Our plans, you see, we're planning to cover, make it about 30% permeable with mature trees. We're planting about 20 total mature trees, relatively mature trees, I guess they're going to grow, and shrubs. You'll see that the entire locus is going to be surrounded by landscaping. There's a landscaping plan there that provides for red maple and some holly trees and various shrubs that are going to surround it. It's a one-story building with appropriate setbacks. If there's, so you're not going to be able to, it's not going to be standing, it's going to be not too much farther above the, this is where I was hoping to get a rendering, but not too much further above the trees, so it's not going to be unsightly. The new versions of these franchises are designed to be more in keeping with the, the environments. It's going to have trellises, and it has a lot more vegetation. The idea is going to be surrounding it. The purposes of the two exceptions, or what we're seeking, is the parking. First one is the parking on the setback. As you can see from the plan, the parking is an issue in that we're planning to put a Popeye's restaurant in the middle of this lot. It's only 2,500 square feet, relatively small building, but the lot's also not generous. It is bounded on one side, of course, by the side street and on Main Street, and on the other side by I think an animal shelter. So there's simply not enough room for the parking that we need, so that we need to just intrude onto the setback by about 10 feet for most of these parking spaces. It's not a lot. And again, if you look at the landscape, the landscaping is going to be hiding. You're not going to be seeing cars from the street if you look at the landscape plan. So that it's between 10 feet and 5 feet, depending on which side of the lot you're on, is a fairly minor change to allow these parked cars. So that's the parking on the setback. I don't think it's going to, visually change. I don't think people driving are going to even notice that. Secondly, the number of parking spaces, according to the city's code, it requires, if we did it the way, the exact, numerical way the city has it, I think it would be like 62 parking spaces. Obviously, because of the number of seats, we have 24 seats. The number, if that's for a fast food restaurant, so obviously that would be 60 parking spaces. That would be, there wouldn't be any, if we had 60 parking spaces, there wouldn't be any structure there. So it's simply not feasible to have a restaurant with 62 parking spaces. We have designed this with 22 spaces, and that's based on the, and if we have any further questions, we have a representative from the Parikh Network company, but basically we have one car for every 2 seats. We propose 24 seats. That would require 12 parking spaces, and then 6 or 7 additional parking spaces for our employees. So we have a few to spare with the proposed 22 cars. And so for both of these, the variances, without the variances, we simply wouldn't be able to build a restaurant or really any kind of business that would require, that many seats. That many parking spaces. And right now, it's pretty much an unsightly mess. The other thing we'd want to emphasize is, and again, we have other engineering people that could come and speak to this next time if we do it, is that the property right now has been used for automobile repairs. It actually has a sewer, a septic system in it, or a cesspit, and so we have a lot of environmental contamination. As part of this project, we're going to be removing all that soil, and we're going to be hooking it up to the city sewage. We're also going to be improving the sidewalk with an asphalt sidewalk and curbing as per the plans. So we're trying to convert this, basically this corner gas station lot to a small restaurant, and we just need to get these 2 small variances to make that happen. If you have any questions.
I have a question. So I've never been to a Popeyes. I hear it's great. But
Sorry?
I know, I've never been to a Popeyes. I hear it's great though. But I understand there are a few other Popeyes in the area. Have you done any sort of studies to show how many parking spaces are being used at any given time throughout the day at
Yeah.
those locations?
Sure. In general, most.
Do you have that information?
Mr. Beck, do you have that? You can speak to that.
Because there's 22 spots proposed, but you're saying 7 or 8 for employees, so there's only going to be 7 or 8 people working at a time?
For this, well, that's how many cars we would have for the employees. But if you want to speak to that, Mr. Beck.
Hi, Ed Baksh. I'm with the construction manager for the applicant.
Okay.
So to answer your question, sir, usually at peak times, we'll probably have about 10 to 12 employees working at the restaurant. That's just during the lunch and dinner peak.
So that would be 10 parking spots for customers during those times?
Yes, but the majority of our employees usually use public transportation or would carpool. We find as a whole in our restaurants, maybe, the manager of the restaurant would probably drive, everyone else usually uses public transportation for the most part. So maybe 4 or 5 spots would be taken up by employees total throughout the day. And as far as the parking for their patrons, usually the spots are underused. As you know, most fast food is usually drive-through or to-go business, so it's very rare to park lots full. And I do apologize, yes, there have been studies done, but our engineer would have presented that, but they didn't come today because we thought this was going to be tabled, so.
I understand that.
Apologize about that.
None of these people, you have this line of cars here going through the drive-up. None of those people stop and eat there, in their car, like I do? You know,
Actually, I think I see your car right there, John.
That's
I think
me,
you're
yeah,
third
I'm
in line.
Third from the but it's, a lot of the people will eat on site, right? I mean, they'll pick up at the window, look for a parking space, and park there. Is that right?
We found some mostly at Popeyes is not as easy to eat as some of the other fast food restaurants, like a sandwich, like a McDonald's. It's a lot easier to eat in your car. Our food is a little bit messier, but I'm sure some people may do that, but the majority would, if you're going to park, would probably go inside because you got to wash your hands after you. So, but to answer your question, maybe 1 or 2 people might, but I don't think we can do it. Most of our business is larger meals, which would be, for families, so it's usually takeaway.
Next, I mean, the parking just seems especially based on the city. I know that you mentioned the brand standards, of 1 car for 2 people, per seat, or 2 seats, for every 2 seats and things, but I mean, that's not Malden's standard. That's what
I would just want to see more myself. I would want to see that traffic study. I would want to see more information on this because, I mean, at peak times, half the parking spaces are going to be taken up by employees.
Yeah.
And I'm not familiar with the restaurant,
No, I'm not.
so I don't know, like, to your point. So there's right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people in the drive-through. You're number 3 in there. Where if,
I mean, if half.
I mean, if they're all leaving, fine, but I guess I would just want to see more.
Don't guarantee.
Well, let's see those studies from those other restaurants in the area, how many parking spots are taken up at any given time by people actually parking and eating their meals that they order at the drive-thru or eating in. How many seats are in the restaurant for this location?
24 seats.
24 seats.
So it's 12 cars. According to
If there's
their-
2 in, there's 2 in
According
each
to
car.
theirs.
So no parking spaces for drive-thru people, if it's full.
Right.
I'd want to see that study for other restaurants. Just because I'm not familiar, I would want to see those traffic studies from other area restaurants. How many spaces at any given time during the day are taken up by employees and customers?
I mean, I think that the bigger issue to me is it's just really not intended for this use. It's not intended to be a restaurant. It's a pretty decent sized lot. I think they have a hard time showing that there isn't any other use that could be done here without these variances. Is there anything you can offer us that would show that you can't put something else in here? I know you want a restaurant, but is there something to be said that you can't put another business or something else there that wouldn't require these variances?
You mean, I'm sorry, for us, our company, or?
Well, I'm thinking broader too, because that's really what you have to show for a variance is that without this request, there's no other way to use this lot. So it's a pretty high burden. I mean, is there anything you could offer us that would show that we absolutely have to give these variances or otherwise this property just can't be used?
Well, I mean, for most businesses, you would need this number of parking spaces, which would also necessitate the need for the setback variance as well. I'm struggling to think of any other appropriate use for this lot. It's clearly not going to be it's obviously not working as a mechanic shop. It's been, disused for many years. It's been on the market, the property's been on the market for many years. So I guess I would simply, just the market would seem to indicate that, we're the only ones who are willing to, first of all, it's a huge investment, because it is a prior use of a garage, which obviously, indicates that you're gonna have to do a lot of soil remediation and the hookup. So, it couldn't be anybody, it would have to be a business with substantial resources to do this initial, not even the build-up, but the remediation and the connecting and so forth. And I'm having trouble envisioning, what other type of business would go in there. I mean, the fact is that, it's a busy street, and and the drive-through would be, and right behind it is you have a lot of, apartments, apartment dwellers, several hundred, in fact, and, it would create a good walkable location for most of those people for providing fast food to, we'd say quicker food to the people behind the building. So I don't see, I mean, just by virtue of the market itself, the fact that, we're the only market. And that's been, how many years was it on the market? Do we know? I think it was several years.
I don't know.
Yeah, but I knew it was, it's been sitting there as pretty much an eyesore, You know, we're the only ones who've come forward with any kind of plan to use it. So I'm sort of, yeah, I understand what you're saying, and sort of asking to prove a negative, but no, there's, to use that particular spot where it's owned, you have a customer base, built in, it's Malden. It's a very popular type of restaurant, and I don't see any other use that I can, envision that economically, because there's gonna be a huge upfront cost for the Parikh Network to make this thing, workable. Right now, you have a permeable surface with a lot of contaminants and a sewer sitting there. It's been sitting there for years and years and years. So if there was some other good use for it, that somebody else would have, at this point, would have come up for it. I mean, if somebody wants to go in and buy it and put it in a park, then that would be nice. But that, to put in a park there would cost probably as much as building this structure, because the amount of remediation you're gonna have to do. But we would happy to get the,
You already have them, right? The traffic studies and the parking,
we
use
have
of
some
parking
other,
spaces.
you mean traffic studies from the area restaurant?
Yeah, from other similar Popeyes.
Okay,
Or other
not-
Popeyes.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, yes.
Because you say, so there, it's different
we've done-
than a
we've done
McDonald's or
traffic-
something like that, where
Yeah.
most people drive away because it's not a meal they
Right,
can
right,
eat
so there's
in a
other,
park.
right, another fairly recent, and I think we even have fairly recent traffic studies, so.
Within the
yeah.
past year or two?
Last.
I don't want you to go
I
and
don't-
get a new
yeah,
one.
Don't pin me down, but I mean, when I say recent, we built a few Popeyes in the area in the last few years.
I think that would be helpful. In my opinion, I'd rather see this tabled until we see that information.
Yeah, it's really hard to agree with any type of hardship without the data. And then there's still the setback issue, so.
Yep.
And in terms of the tabling issue, Mr. O'Malley had raised the point of disenfranchising because it's not going to be another notice. If the board wants, we can table this for another time. We'll be happy to take on to renotice this, to do that, because that's only fair. I respect that, what he's saying.
Did you hear that, Councilor O'Malley?
It doesn't change the fact that people are here waiting to speak.
Well, that was his initial.
I feel, so in my opinion, I don't know that we can hear people speak, but from where I sit, it's not the plan that we're ultimately going to be voting on.
That's not true. He said this is the plan.
Yeah, he said this is,
He just wants to make renderings to show them what it looks like,
Right.
as if they're walking down the sidewalk, from what I'm gathering. So if
they're not gonna radically change the number of parking spaces or
Or change the
the
curb
building.
cut or anything.
Okay.
But we do have these, but the objection is all linked up to with respect to the number of parking spaces and the traffic flow and so forth. To the extent that those objections, I think they're intertwined. And, I think we can provide some traffic studies that would be helpful to the board.
Those studies were performed by a professional.
Yeah, we have whenever we get a final occupancy permit and all that, there's typically a traffic study that's been done. Yeah, so we can, we'd be able to get those, and if necessary, we could get one for this particular location. That would take a little more time, but we could do it.
I have no problem listening to the public, and this happens all the time where we continue our hearing. After getting more data, there might be suggestions for changing things that might make it more amendable, and we can see that revised plan.
I agree. I think hearing from the public would probably, I still want to see that information, which obviously isn't available tonight, but I think hearing from the public, whether they're opposed or for, might be helpful for everybody. Do you have anything else to say?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
Is this property still for sale, or is it under agreement based on this hearing, or is it purchased?
It's under agreement based on this.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Okay,
All right. Thank you.
thank you. So now we would like to hear from anybody from the public that's in the room that's opposed to this. So come on up and just state your name and where you live.
Do you want them to sign in too?
Can you hear me?
Right down.
My name's Stephen Hayes.
Can you just write it down on that sheet
Sure.
up there?
My name's Stephen Hayes. I live at 12 Fairlawn Street. So the Main Street end of Fairlawn Street.
Is that in Malden or Medford?
In
or
Malden.
Melrose? It's
In Malden.
I just also want to make people aware that if you speak tonight, we usually only let people speak once. So if they come back. That's not true. That's not a real rule. It's a real rule.
Excuse me, we don't need back and forth from members of the public from what the chairman's saying.
Yeah. We're not making this up. This is a rule.
Okay, well.
So I don't know if you, just to let you know,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be tabled tonight and if it'll be tabled again in a month, you know. I know I'm here tonight, so I'm going to speak tonight. I don't know how many times you can table something, and with all due respect to the presenters on behalf of the Popeyes, I don't know if any type of traffic studies can be exactly replicated on an area that is right on the border between two towns, Malden and Melrose, right near Orange Line and commuter rails, right across from a park, a rather large park, and in a high residential area. And there's a lot of factors going in there. You know, if you got a Popeyes in Everett or, you know, wherever else there is, Boston, you know, different, totally just different dynamics, different.
from what I understand, those are busier locations than where this one's proposed, so that's why I asked that, but.
No, I mean, I think it's a great point, you know. I think it's worth looking into. It's just that I don't know that any, you know, if they look at other locations, I don't think they'll be able to replicate the dynamics of the proposed location here. As far as the point that you made about the variance needing to demonstrate that it has to be a restaurant, you know, I think you could use that property for a parking lot. I mean, you could use that property for a lot of things. I don't think that they've made the case that it definitively must be a restaurant and nothing else. And I just would ask you all to consider the negative aspects on the neighborhood that a fast food restaurant would have. You know, there's a drive-through traffic, people are gonna be turning around, going in the wrong direction, on our street, you know, day and night. There's families, people with young kids. This dramatically.
Sorry to interrupt, that's actually a great question. What are the hours? What would the proposed hours be?
So we usually open at 10:30 a.m. and close at 11 p.m.
Okay.
So if they close at 11, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's late for people in that area. So I just would ask that the disruption to the people who've been living in that neighborhood for a long time would be considered, because these are people that have put down roots and have spent a lot of time and contributed a lot to this community. And I think I know everyone that I've spoken to, a lot of my neighbors are here, are definitely against this proposal. And I just want to say, just to show that I'm not cold-hearted to our friends here, there's other places in Malden they could consider. We have a pot shop on Commercial Street fast food and a pot shop, I think, is a marriage made in heaven. You guys should probably look into that. And, you know, Commercial Street is not as residential. You know, there's a lot of businesses, they have a lot, that's an area that can better handle automobile traffic rather than this area where we have people walking their dogs in the park, you know. We've got wildlife, there's a coyote issue over there that is real problematic. Trust me, I have a dog and a young child, so I'm keenly aware of the coyotes at Pine Banks. I've seen them in my neighbor's front yard. I've seen them on our street walking around. And we know in Malden there's coyotes. You know, I think a lot of us were at the presentation over the summer, so, or a few months ago rather. So I just wanted to make my thoughts on that heard while you guys are all here. And I appreciate the work you do, and thank you for considering the way that the community feels on this.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Sorry for not introducing myself earlier. My name is Ryan O'Malley, Ward 4 City Councilor. If I may, I'd like to approach to deliver the petition.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you. So I want to start by apologizing for my attire. I was out biking today, and had I known this would have been delayed, I would have went home and changed first to be more presentable. So I do apologize. I want to start by thanking the Salona family, and I do have sympathy for they're the owners of the property. They have done work on my car, they have done work on my mother's car, and I do understand that they would like to sell this property. I also like Popeyes. I'm not opposed to fast food. The concern I have is that the only individuals I really had any interaction with for an entire year during this project was their attorneys. And at every point, I spoke to one of those attorneys. I told them, this is really not a good fit for this neighborhood. It's really not a good use. I'm telling you the neighbors would not be happy with this. And I think that the impact on the neighborhood would be detrimental. That message was consistently delivered over a year. I was told the project was not going to happen, and then all of a sudden it appeared on your agenda. And that is when I got back involved, reached out to the community, and helped get this petition signed. I also want to say that the amount of community engagement has really been non-existent. Aside from being reached out from the attorneys, there was one, I think, architect that reached out to me, but there's really been no public engagement whatsoever. And I would say that, discouraging public testimony is not the right way to start this. It doesn't help with the fact that there's been no public engagement. This is the public engagement process, and I do think giving deference to
I would never discourage it, Ryan. I'm sorry to interrupt. I would never discourage it. I just want to make sure people are speaking to what is actually on the table.
And I do think that the tradition of interrupting people who are testifying is probably one of the reasons why I was so comfortable also interjecting. That is very unusual, and I do think that it is best to let people testify fully. I view it as discouraging, and I do think members of the public would also.
I would add that screaming out from the audience to our chairman probably isn't the best way to convey that. The appropriate way is to convey it speaking at the microphone. I'd ask you to do that in the future, please.
Absolutely, understood. So I'm going to read this letter so that both the public as well as y'all are aware of what has been presented to you. Dear honorable members of the Malden Zoning Board of Appeal, we, the underside residents and public officials, write in opposition to the petition requesting variances of the setbacks and parking requirements at 1100 Main Street for a fast food drive-through restaurant. This petition fails to meet any of the statutorily required findings of MGL Chapter 40A, Section 10, and of the Malden City Code 12.32.040, namely that 1, the circumstances relating to the soil conditions, shape, or topography, especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located, would substantiate the granting of a variance. 2, literal enforcement of the provision of the zoning bylaw, specifically relating to circumstances affecting the land or structure, would involve a substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner or appellant. 3, relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. And 4, relief may be granted without nullifying or substantially derogating the intent of the proposed zoning bylaw. MGL Chapter 48, Section 10, and the Massachusetts City Code states that the Zoning Board of Appeal must find that all 4 criteria above are met in order to grant a variance. The petition fails all of these criteria based on the following facts and reasoning. Criteria 1, circumstances relating to the soil conditions, etc. The petition fails this criteria because there is nothing unusual or detrimental about the topography, soil conditions, or shape of the property that would make it impossible for any other allowed use to be built on the property. This lot is of a significant size parcel for Malden and is level. According to the City of Malden's GIS records, it is approximately 31,271 square feet and has approximately 242 feet of frontage on Main Street and approximately 125 feet of frontage on Island Hill Avenue. The parcel is not an abnormal shape, it is rectangular. The site is completely level and is neither steep grade changes nor exposed ledge or cliff rock. As such, there are many uses which could fit on the site in its current state. Criteria 2, literal enforcement of the zoning provisions would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise. Not only does the lot allow for the current pre-existing and non-conforming use to continue to operate, according to the use regulations found in 12.12.030 of the Malden City Code, the site could also allow the following non-exhaustive lists of uses depending on the design attributes: a business school, funeral home, gas station, service station, greenhouse, hotel, motel, nursing convalescence home, medical center, general offices, recreation for gainful business, retail sales, retail services, planned development, convenience store, supermarket, adult health center, kennel, warehouse, research and development, towing, light manufacturing, daycare, hospital, nonprofit school, religious facility, dwelling units such as townhouses, row houses, multifamily dwellings up to 3 or 4 units, and multifamily dwellings up to 3 stories or less. As you can see, there is already a use that is allowed to operate on the lot, and there are many other uses which could be allowed beyond the narrow focus of this petition, which is a fast food restaurant with a high volume drive-through. Therefore, enforcement of the zoning provision is not a substantial hardship, financial or otherwise. Criteria 3, relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. Allowing a fast food restaurant with a high volume drive-through to be located on this stretch of Main Street in violation of Malden City ordinances would be of substantial detriment to the public good because it is a heavy pedestrian area near many houses and parks. Drive-through restaurants are known for their trash blowing all over the place, late night operations, loud noises at all hours, fast driving cars, pedestrian accidents and fatalities, dumpsters full of food waste and rodents. A worse use for this location could not be found. As such, it is clear this petition would be a substantial detriment to the public good. Criteria 4, relief may be granted without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the zoning bylaw. A setback or parking requirement, the setback and parking requirements are meant to prevent substantial negative impact of the surrounding community. As for parking, the surrounding neighborhood and park will become the overflow parking for this establishment. If Malden desires to reduce parking requirements, then it should be done in a holistic way, not as a one-off for a drive-through restaurant in a largely residential area. Additionally, this petition, if approved, will violate the setback requirements on 3 of 4 sides, including a side which directly abuts a residential property. The residents of this area will go from having a neighbor that operates during normal daytime business hours to a late-night drive-through with cars constantly coming through. Rather than hearing the wind blowing through the trees at Pine Banks, they will hear countless people shouting orders into a drive-through telecom. The setback should absolutely be upheld for this intense and noisy use. For the above reasons, we, the undersigned residents and local officials, respectfully request that the Zoning Board of Appeal deny the petition and uphold our local zoning ordinances. If you have any questions about this petition, please contact me, Ryan O'Malley, Malden City Councilor for Ward 4 at ro'malley@citymalden.org. Again, it is presented to you with 126 digital and physical signatures. The only reason why there are physical signatures is some people in the audience wanted to sign today. Thank you very much for this. I hope that you will not table it. I don't think any amount of information about other Popeyes is going to change the fact that this violates all 4 criteria of our zoning ordinance in order for you to grant this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in opposition?
If I had more time, I could come up with a few more. Denise Russell, 3 Fairlawn Street, Malden, and I've lived in this house for 56 years.
Thank you. Would you mind just writing your name and address on that form that's on at the podium?
Over those 56 years, we've seen a lot of changes along Main Street, and we've certainly tried to help out along the way. However, I'm not sure if I wish my husband was still
I'm sorry,
alive.
can you speak into the microphone?
Oh.
The folks at home watching can't hear you unless you're right into the microphone. Sorry.
Oh, that's too bad.
You might want to even pull it down towards you. There you go.
Over the years, there've been a lot of changes, but I have a short list of what I think are really the most important issues. When you consider the traffic patterns that are involved with this particular restaurant, please remember that Malden is a main street, and it turns out that it's a feeder street for a lot of people going north and south, but also people coming off the Fells Way. They're coming from 93. They're going down to Route 60 to work in the morning. They usually come through the Oak Grove area, down Winter Street, up and down Main. That's a main bus route. A bus stop is right across the street from my house. And that bus goes every 20 or 30 minutes. It's used a lot. So if you have a lot of traffic there and you're on the park side, you have to cross that main street to get over to your apartment and your house on my side of the street. Except for Sunday morning between 7 and 9, I guarantee you if you sit there for a week, the traffic will be backed up from Pine Banks Park all the way to Malden Square from 7 o'clock in the morning until about 9:30. Then we have school out, we have shift changes at 3, and you're going to have traffic from Malden Square coming off of Route 60, the 93 crossover, and headed north, you have traffic backed up both ways from about 2:30 in the afternoon until after 6 o'clock at night. I personally, on my property, have been hit 6 times with damage to property from people going up and down Main Street, coming from activities, restaurants most of the time. There's a, get around the curve, there's almost a straightaway from about in front of my house to beyond the Melrose line to where the park is. And that's the area where you're thinking about putting a restaurant in. I guarantee you that you're looking for someone to get hurt or a car crash. I've seen it before. It's a major truck route. We have, I think my friend, my neighbor, already mentioned the coyotes, the rats, and the mice. I'm sure they'll love the smell of the food. We already have 3 restaurants within that block area. Just beyond where they're thinking of this restaurant, you have a lunch counter, coffee shop. I think it closes in 4 or 5 o'clock. You have Bobby C's at the corner. There's a new restaurant around the corner. There's not a lot of parking for those. There's a handful of parking on Main Street in front of those 3 places, just around the corner from Bobby C's. I think he has 2 or 3 parking spots. You have 3 entrances to the condos and apartments that sit behind that area. Now, coming out of a drive-through, where are you going to go with this traffic? Are you going to take the right and go in behind and through that whole residential complex with the apartments and condos? You could go the other way and turn by the doghouse. That's also an access to the road that goes behind those apartments and houses. Up by Bobby C's is another entrance, which does exactly the same thing. So beyond that, you have the access road to the T, which involves the bus route. And they go down the access road, they turn around there, and they come back out the access road right across from Pine Banks Park. The entrance to this place would be right across from the entrance to Pine Banks Park. All sorts of activities. Have you considered that the high school athletic groups in the fall and in the spring actually run up and down Main Street? They go up to the park for their activities. They have road races. In the spring, you have the little ferry preschool houses, activities that are put on by the library and by other groups within Malden. So you're talking about a lot of very small kids, groups who maybe don't mind as well as they should whenever they're crossing the street. You have a daycare that's 2 blocks up the street. They cross that road every single day, taking those kids for a walk. There is a traffic light. That has not prevented all the accidents from happening. Let's see what else I have. Lots of dog walkers, including people in our neighborhood and people from the apartment complex. They're walking their dogs along Main Street. You can't take the dog into the park, so they walk along the Main Street. Let me see. Lots of babies and parents with strollers going up and down the street. How many entrances and exits are they going to have to cross without an accident? Let me see. Ideas for that property? How about a 2-story dentist's office or
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but we're not here for ideas. We're just hearing whether or not we should grant a
the
variance
negative side? Okay.
on parking and the setback
okay.
variance.
All righty. We got the dog parks, we got the strollers, we got the major bus routes, we have the apartments, people going in behind there. I guess that's a good enough list for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else opposed to this that would like to speak? Oh, 2 hands up at the same time. You're going to have to race. And just as a reminder, we're here to decide on the variance for the number of parking spaces and the setbacks only.
Want me to sign in?
Yes, please. And you can just state your name and where you live when you start speaking.
Okay, my name is Linda Butaro, and I live a little further down at 820 Main Street. I've lived there for about 45 years, and up where they want to put the restaurant, that area has had many, many accidents through the years, because I've lived there for about 45 years, and there's kind of a blind spot before you get to the traffic lights, And there's been many accidents up that way, which I've witnessed through the years. And I think a drive-through fast food restaurant would not be good at all. Too much traffic going in and out. Many people are walking across to Pine Banks Park with their children, small children, carriages. A lot of people walk into the park with their pets. And I think it would be many accidents waiting to happen. People would probably get killed with more traffic. And there's been a lot more traffic in the last 45 years nowadays than there was years ago. And Wendy's down the other end of Malden is a perfect example, which I go to Wendy's sometimes, and it's a nightmare to get out onto the road, and there's a lot more traffic down that way. So I just think it would be not a good fit at all. Not opposed to Popeyes going somewhere else in Malden, but at that location, I think it would be a disaster. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Lisa Hammersley. I live at 21 Everett Street. My greatest concern with the variance for this project would be the effects that it would have on the wildlife at Pine Banks Park. I know there have been other restaurants in the area over the years, but never this type of fast food. Fast food comes in wrappers and is often consumed outside of the restaurant. With the limited parking here, it goes without saying that some of this food will be consumed within the park, undoubtedly leading to an increase in food wrappers and food scraps thrown in the park's trash receptacles. These food wrappers and food scraps will be pulled out of the barrels by animals and eaten or left all around the park. This easy access to food is especially dangerous for young animals that become dependent on the human food source and may not learn to hunt and forage on their own. This may lead to starvation should the readily available food become unavailable. Human food scraps also do not have the same nutritional value as natural foods that the wildlife would be normally eating, and this can lead to malnutrition and can greatly affect future offspring. I am also concerned by the light that this establishment will most likely give off. Scientists have long known that the introduction of artificial light can be detrimental to a wildlife area. Nocturnal animals sleep during the day and are active at night. Light pollution radically alters their nighttime environment by turning night into day. Predators use light to hunt, and prey species use darkness
I'm sorry.
as cover.
Again, I hate to interrupt, but we're here for a variance for the number of parking spaces and the setbacks. So what you're talking about definitely should be heard, but it's not by this board. It would be by the planning board.
Okay, well, I'm almost through. So.
Okay, keep going then. I'm sorry.
Glare from artificial lights can also impact those who call the pond home, such as frogs and toads, whose nighttime croaking is part of their breeding ritual. Artificial lights disrupt this nocturnal activity and interfere with reproduction and reduce populations. I have no issue with fast food places coming to Malden and welcome all new businesses, but I just feel that the risks that this location poses to the future of wildlife that call Pine Banks Park their home is far too great. If the animals living in this park could speak, they would most certainly ask that you not approve this variance to the setbacks and parking. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? And again, all this board is hearing tonight is in regards to the number of parking spaces and the setback variances. In opposition? Come on up. Sure, no problem. Just write down on the sign-in sheet and say your names and where you're from.
Megan McDonough, and I'm 185 Main Street, Melrose, so I'm just right next to the park. And I'm also wondering, were notices given to Melrose abutters?
Yep.
They were, okay. I had done some posting on social media, and a lot of people at Oak Grove, Windsor, Oak Grove Village, hadn't heard about it. So I don't know if it was the responsibility of their managers, but I'd love to get up with them too.
It would have gone to the property owner, which would have been Windsor, so on the abutters list, it would have gone to Windsor, who would have then had to distribute to the residents.
Okay, because I have multiple residents at Oak Grove, Windsor that are saying, give me flyers, I want to hand them out. And I said, okay, well, it's probably not the last meeting for Malden. So
Unfortunately, we wouldn't have access to that information, so we sent it to Windsor.
Okay.
And they would have had to, we don't know who's living, we have no access to.
The resident list?
Yeah, we
Okay.
just have the
Oh,
owner,
no,
that's
sure,
it.
yeah, I completely
Yeah.
understand. And I will stay up with the residents who wanted
Yeah.
to be more involved and let them be the point people with that and try to stay up with the Ward 4 counselor here.
Melrose was very nice and very speedy about getting their abutters list back to us too, by the way.
Getting a butters back to you?
Back to us within an hour. They got it back. They were very good to work with when we requested the abutters list, just so you know.
Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's right there. We're right on the line. So, and my family has been in the neighborhood for 40 years, pretty active in the community, and tend to speak up when different things are going in to support them or help or whatever, and have been pretty active in getting traffic, trying to improve for traffic, and definitely have been in a lot of conversations with DPW and engineering and police about the state of traffic. And I know that for that, and so I'm talking about like area around the park, so coming from Malden and then going up to like West Wyoming and Melrose. I know not totally relevant, but I think it is, because that's a strip, that's like a speed strip.
Is this about parking or setbacks in Malden?
It can be, yeah, because it's about the amount of traffic that are gonna be entering and exiting
So
from
we're not-
there. And you can just keep directing me, and I can just keep bringing it back closer.
Yeah, we're not
Sure,
voting
you're
on
not the traffic department, I
traffic.
understand.
Yeah, that's a different
Okay.
board, so it's just the number of parking spaces and the setbacks that we're voting on.
Okay, that's fine. So I don't think that the restaurant like that on that parcel, which I am familiar with, could fit enough parking to serve the restaurant, and I think you guys have already brought that up. That's pretty clear. They're talking about using trees there, and I know that it is a contaminated site. It's open with DEP right now, and you actually can't dig down 12 feet. You can't dig down more than 12 inches. The site has to be capped. And so I don't know, one, how they would put trees there, and secondly, if there were trees there, I think it would cause line of sight problems. It is an exercise area. A lot of people,
Just not to speak for the petitioner, but they did mention that they would be cleaning the site up before they built.
okay, well, I spoke with your Board of Health director today, and he said that it has to be capped, and there's something about you can't go down further than 12 inches after it's capped. So
That's not something that this board
I would
deals with,
I would
but
like to learn more about it.
Yeah, but that is something they mentioned when we were speaking earlier, that they would be cleaning the site up before
Sure,
they did
okay.
anything.
And is parking relative to the amount of increased traffic that building would create? Is that
No,
because
so
of-
we're just voting on the number of parking spaces allowed and the setbacks.
But I think what she's saying is that if there is no parking there, they have to leave, which increases the traffic count. They're gonna have people moving all the time because they can't park.
Okay.
So there
Well, that
would-
would be part of the traffic study, I guess, that they would supply. So we could determine that, but it still wouldn't be this board.
Okay, so with a drive-through, with 20 spaces, with people doing DoorDash, with cars moving through the space, because I think we are still talking about that, right?
Yep.
So, that it's just not efficient. I don't see how it would work. And then for another drive-through issue, I don't know if I can do that, but I'll try. There's been other drive-throughs that tried to go through in that area, in highly residential area. They were completely fought off by abutters, going to appeal after appeal after appeal for 6 months with pedestrian groups, bicycle groups, seniors. There's a lot of senior housing in that. There is a preschool right next door and 2 doors down, and then across the street there's also an outdoor preschool that runs in Pine Banks Park. And in addition to that, The Windsor Oak Grove has a lot of Section 8 housing. There's a lot of mobility issue people there. I know at least 2 people that live there in wheelchairs. Myself, there are more people moving around, and that's ADA compliant housing. People seek it for that reason. There's just so much going on. It's such a complicated space. I think that these kind of restaurants do really well in fast-moving places. Route 60, Route 16, the Fells Way, and I hope that the petitioner can find a different usage for the property. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Carrie Percival. I live at 4 Seaview Ave, Malden. I just wanted to say that I oppose the project because of the air quality that will be influenced negatively by having a drive-through in that area. The amount of air pollution that will be introduced into that residential area will not be healthy for the residents who live there. It's a high residential area with lots of people living there. And second, the light is very disturbing at night, really messes up people's sleep cycles. So I'm just opposed to that kind of use where there's a drive-through with a lot of idling cars that introduce a lot of air pollution into the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. I would make sure that you attend the planning board meeting.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak in opposition? Would anybody, Jadine, did you want to speak? Okay. Would anybody like to speak in favor of this project? I'm sorry, Ryan, you already spoke, and you already gave us a letter.
I'm trying to be respectful, I really am. I just wanted to clarify, the reason why some people might be talking about other attributes besides parking and setbacks is because when you are designing a drive-through or a building of a certain size, it requires the setback. It requires less parking. So they are directly connected, and I do think that letting people testify to that is the appropriate thing to do.
But that's not what we're deciding on. That's something that the planning board decides on. Do you understand that? Like, so I'm not trying, so it's just, we can listen, but we're not deciding on that. That's not what we do. We're deciding on the variance only. So even if we're sympathetic to it, and we're like, oh, you're right, and you have a great point, and a lot of people did, we're not deciding on that.
But you can see the connection between having and volunteering to put in a drive-through and volunteering to build a building a certain size, how that directly impacts.
Right. So the planning board
setback
can
and
tell
parking.
us, maybe you can have 2 drive-up windows and no microphone, or something to that effect, but that's not us. That's not what we're here for.
I'm just trying
That's
to
the planning
clarify
board.
that there's a nexus there. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jadine Sika. I'm the Ward 8 City Councilor, and I live at 12 Cleveland Street. I had no plans of speaking at this meeting this evening, but I was next door in another meeting, so I apologize for being a little casual, but my meeting was casual. I actually was under the impression that this was going to be tabled this evening, or I probably would have made sure that I would have been here, as I would assume some of my colleagues would be here as well. And after listening to, some of the residents that are against this petition, I kind of feel a little offended because Ward 8, as you know, is Broadway corridor, and apparently I have a lot of air pollution, air quality issues, idling traffic, and I'm here to say that I think you should grant this variance for the parking and the setbacks because I know firsthand there's not going to be 65 people in Popeye's parking lot getting food. I have Kentucky Fried Chicken, I have Burger King. I don't have any of those issues on Broadway, none. I had colleagues come up and speak against KFC for those same exact reasons, and I haven't had an issue. I don't have residents next door from Burger King complaining that they're hearing people order through the drive-through. I don't hear any of that. And of course, there are only people here that are against this petition, because those are usually the only people that you hear are the ones that don't want something to happen. I saw on several social media sites about this exact location, and the majority of the Malden residents want this business here in our community. And I don't think that Ward 8 should technically be the only area in the city that welcomes these types of commercial businesses. As a counselor in this city, I'm always hearing of people that want to bring in commercial, but when commercial comes here, it's like, oh, wait a minute, we don't want you. We don't want that particular commercial, you know? On Charles Street, we're talking about cannabis. One of the gentlemen mentioned cannabis. That's not fair to the residents that, you know, let's say Upper 99 that have Mix 360, have Garden Remedies, even though it's in Melrose, it's still right there. They got M&M Liquor. At what point do you say enough is enough for a certain group of residents and a different group of residents gets to live without all of that? Like, I think my residents of Ward 8 would be offended by hearing some of these comments because we're the ones getting stuck with everything.
I need to stop you. We don't make the zoning, that's the city.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that in Ward 8, I don't have any issues with parking. There's not gonna be, what do they have, 22 spaces that they have available? I think that's plenty for a fast food. So I'm not taking my kids and eating in Popeyes and staying there for 2 hours. Even if you were to eat in this location, you're gonna be in and out in 30 minutes. There's no need for them to have 65 spaces. I think this variance should be granted for that reason. There's no people waiting to get in. It's zoned as highway business. There was an IHOP there years ago. I'm sure IHOP was open 24 hours. Maybe not 11 o'clock, maybe you might wanna go down to maybe 10 o'clock, but there's a lot of parents that do have their kids playing at Pine Banks, and they wanna be able to, if they have a late night game, get something to eat in the area. I just think that all the factors that people are upset about, it's not that big of a deal. I deal with it every day in Ward 8, and I don't think that it's unreasonable for them to be in front of you requesting a variance for their number of parking spaces and the setbacks. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in opposition? In favor of this? In favor? Okay. Would the petitioner like to comment on anything else, or I believe we already had a motion to table this, if anybody wanted to continue down that road? Would you like to continue,
I would just, again, I would, move to table this, subject to the discussions we've had about these traffic issues. I would point out that we'd be actually making it safer in that there's only going to be one, the access and egress points are going to be clearly defined. Right now, it's sort of a wide open thing that cars zip around, and I've seen cars use it, and driving around. So it's actually going to be more, self-contained and safer. And these other issues, as you said, would be better addressed through the planning board. And again, I appreciate everybody's input. But again, as the other councilor pointed out, the only other business that's been there, was the IHOP, and right now, no, people can say that such and such business could be there, but again, the reality is this is what the market is. This is what somebody's willing to do there, and it's, and the fact that it is a main road, that's why you would put a restaurant there. You'd get the traffic. So again, and again, if there's a concern about, letting everybody know, again, we'd be willing to, to renotice this as appropriate. So I would again move that we, table this.
And we'd like to see those traffic,
Yeah, so that we can provide you.
assuming that, but from what I hear, those other locations are in much busier locations than what's proposed here.
They vary, but most of them are,
Do you know what the traffic count is on Main Street? Just traffic count in general?
I'm sorry?
Do you know what the traffic count is on Main Street?
No, I do not.
Okay,
I wouldn't want to guess.
all right. Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
I just have a clarification about the traffic study. So is the traffic study also include the traffic count as it currently is on that street, or the traffic study is only in relation to sort of the activity for other locations?
We don't have a traffic study for that location, but there are other
Oh, no.
Popeyes and other locations that I was asking if they could get copies of, because from what I understand, those other locations are in busier locations than what this one's proposed.
Yeah, you're asking whether that would be included in more specific.
Yeah, I'm just asking
Right.
if it would include data for both, and rather than just one versus the other.
Yeah, the traffic study would typically be done for the planning board, for this location, for the planning board purposes. But we have a variety of other traffic studies that would show, the localized impact, because they are all similar size and they have similar, drive-throughs.
It would probably be helpful to provide both, I think. Yeah.
Well, if that's the request, we would need 2 months rather than 1 month table.
You don't already have the data?
For this location, I don't believe we have the traffic study done yet.
For this location,
For this
okay.
location.
Anyone else like to speak? Or, I'm sorry, we're going to make a motion. So to either table or anything else from the board. I'm sorry, Ryan, we can't, again.
Regarding the traffic study, you have scolded people for.
Why do you keep interrupting our meetings?
I'm
We're not taking public comments any longer.
As a city councilor who represents the neighborhood, I would appreciate some respect also.
We don't go to your
It's
meetings
a
and
two-
interrupt at a whim.
I would invite
You have
you
already
all to
spoken. I
please.
object to this. We've heard your testimony already.
It's closed to the public.
But my understanding is that you're talking about not.
So would anybody like to make a motion to table as the petitioner requested?
It doesn't make sense. You're saying two different things. They said it was for a planning board. You were going to wait for something that was traditionally for a planning board, at the same time telling people don't testify about things.
I make a motion that we allow the petitioner an additional month to come forward with additional information that we need to make a reasonable decision on this.
I'll second that.
And further, before you go, and further that they do renotice the neighborhood. They renotice the neighborhood and send out notices as before.
That they re-notify the neighborhood as a part of the fact that they're tabling it, that we're having another meeting about.
I'm sorry, but they'll pay for it. Do you want to make a balance there?
That's fine, I'm just letting you know that.
We,
They wouldn't be very responsible with that, so I just wanted to.
I'm sorry, I'll bring you in. Okay.
Let's let you know that's our part to do.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
I'll turn your microphone on, Kathy. There we go.
I'll second that.
Okay, ready? June meeting? Will you be ready by June?
Yeah, a month would be
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay. All right, a motion by King, second by Bilgan, to allow the petitioner an extra month to make some, to help us make a reasonable decision on the petition, and we'll provide some traffic studies of other locations. And we will send out a notice to the property owners, letting them know that this was tabled until, and I will give you the date, until June 21st, 2023. Take a vote. We're going to,
Would we be required to re-notice in the paper again? Or is the notice of the abutters sufficient?
oh, I will notify the abutters about the tabling, sir,
Okay.
as a decision.
It's a parking study too, not a, we want a parking study. We want to know how many cars at any given point during the day.
Traffic study?
Nope, we don't want to know how many cars are going by.
We want a parking
We
study.
want to know how many spots are being used.
Oh, okay. Parking.
I don't think
So-
it hurts to get a traffic study. People have brought up a concern about added traffic, and it's a drive-through, not a regular restaurant. So I think it helps us determine whether that's a use that's suitable for the area.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think it's gonna change my opinion, but out of respect to the board, if, you know, and I'm happy to see what they have to say, and that's fine with me. I think we have to put it to a vote.
Ready to vote? Ready to vote. Goya?
Yes.
Sherwin?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Bilkin?
Yes.
Kramer?
Yes.
Okay, petition 23-003 is tabled till the June 21st meeting of 2023. Do you hear a motion to adjourn?
I actually have a little bit of new business.
Will that
very
meeting
quickly.
be in here at same time, June 21st at 6:30? Is that, just so we can plan? Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we end, I'm just bothered by the conduct of how this meeting happened tonight, with being interrupted. I would just ask the chair if you could just give some thought to, maybe in the future, just how we could address that. Maybe we need to speak with the city council or some sort of guidelines, but this was unacceptable. I never seen this happen in a court, in any sort of public hearing, and it's certainly not gonna happen here again. So I'm bothered by it, and I'd like to see us do something to prevent it from happening in the future.
Unfortunately, I've seen it.
Yeah.
I'll bring it up.
Being clear about when it's open to the public and closed to the public will help. We do that sometimes.
Okay.
With that, I would motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, motion to adjourn. Froyo? Yes. Sherwin?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Bilkin?
Yes.
Sorry, we're still doing a roll call right here.
And Kramer?
Yes.
We're adjourned at 8:31.